1. Judas Iscariot, the disciple who sold Jesus for a handful of silver. Let's start with what many consider the most famous betrayal in human history, one that changed the course of a major world religion forever. This is the story of Jesus Christ and one of his 12 most trusted disciples, Judas Iscariot. Jesus loved all of his disciples, and Judas even served as the group's treasurer, managing all of their money. As Jesus' popularity grew, religious leaders and Roman authorities became increasingly concerned. They wanted to arrest him, but they feared the reaction of the crowds. So they turned to someone close to him, Judas. And do you know how much Judas accepted to betray his teacher and Lord? Just 30 pieces of silver. The shock fact. The method of betrayal was chilling. Judas told the soldiers, "The man I kiss is Jesus. Arrest him." Under the cover of darkness, Judas approached Jesus, called him Rabbi, and kissed him on the cheek. This became known as the Judas kiss, perhaps the most infamous kiss in history. That single act led to Jesus' arrest and eventual crucifixion. Later, consumed by guilt, Judas took his own life, but by then, the damage had already been done. 2. Julius Caesar and Brutus, Rome's greatest betrayal. Now let's talk about one of the most legendary betrayals ever recorded. The year was 44 BC. Julius Caesar, the most powerful man in Rome, believed that the entire world could turn against him, but never Marcus Brutus. Caesar trusted Brutus like a son. However, many Roman senators feared Caesar was becoming too powerful. They convinced Brutus that Rome comes before friendship. The shock fact. On March 15th, the Ides of March, Caesar was attacked during a Senate meeting. He was stabbed 23 times. He fought back against his attackers, but then he saw Brutus among them, holding a dagger. According to legend, Caesar's final words were, "Et tu, Brute? You too, Brutus?" At that moment, Caesar stopped resisting, covered his face, and collapsed. His trust died before he did. 3. Robert Ford, the fan who shot his hero. This is a story of friendship, greed, and cowardice. In 19th century America, the most famous outlaw was Jesse James. To some, he was a criminal. To others, a folk hero. He was so clever that law enforcement could never catch him. Jesse trusted only a handful of people, especially brothers Charlie and Robert Ford. Robert Ford admired Jesse deeply, but he also wanted fame and the $10,000 reward on Jesse's head. Secretly, he struck a deal with state authorities. The shock fact. On April 3, 1882, Jesse was at home, unarmed. As he turned to dust a picture frame on the wall, Robert Ford shot him in the back of the head. Jesse never suspected his trusted companion. Ford collected the reward, but instead of becoming a hero, history remembered him as a coward and a traitor. 4. Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin, when two dictators played a dangerous game. Now comes one of history's most shocking betrayals. In 1939, just before World War II erupted, two of the world's most notorious dictators, Adolf Hitler of Germany and Joseph Stalin of the Soviet Union, signed a non-aggression pact. Despite their mutual distrust, they promised not to attack one another. Stalin trusted the agreement so much that he ignored repeated warnings from Soviet intelligence. His spies kept saying, "Hitler is preparing for war," but Stalin refused to believe it. The shock fact. On June 22, 1941, Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa, the largest invasion in history. More than 3 million German soldiers stormed into Soviet territory without warning. When Stalin received the news, he reportedly went into shock and withdrew from public view for days. That single betrayal helped ignite one of the deadliest chapters of World War II. 5. Benedict Arnold, America's most famous traitor. Today, the United States is one of the world's most powerful nations. But during its fight for independence, one betrayal nearly changed everything. The man responsible was Benedict Arnold, a brilliant American general and one of George Washington's most trusted officers. Arnold had won important victories for the American cause, but he felt underappreciated and overlooked. The British saw an opportunity. The shock fact. Arnold secretly agreed to hand over West Point, one of America's most strategic military forts, to the British for £20,000. Fortunately, the plot was discovered before it could succeed. When George Washington learned of Arnold's treason, he was devastated. Even today, calling someone a Benedict Arnold in America is another way of calling them a traitor.
6. Malinche, Doña Marina, the woman who helped bring down an empire. This is the story of a woman whose actions helped change the fate of an entire civilization. Malinche was a native woman who became the translator, advisor, and companion of Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés. She was highly intelligent and spoke multiple languages. As Cortés advanced into the Aztec world, Malinche provided crucial information about local politics, rivalries, and weaknesses. The shock fact. Many historians believe that without Malinche's assistance, Cortés and his small force of Spanish soldiers could never have conquered the mighty Aztec Empire. Her role remains controversial to this day. For some, she was a survivor. For others, she became a symbol of betrayal. 7. Cyrus and Artaxerxes, a brother's quest for the throne. Do you trust your siblings? The Persian king. Artaxerxes II trusted his younger brother, Cyrus the Younger. But Cyrus had other plans. Driven by ambition, he secretly recruited 10,000 Greek mercenaries and prepared to seize the throne. The shock fact. In 401 BC, during the Battle of Cunaxa, Cyrus launched an attack against his own brother. At one point, he personally charged toward Artaxerxes, attempting to kill him. Cyrus died in the battle, but his rebellion shook the Persian Empire and triggered years of instability. Sometimes, the greatest threat comes from within your own family. 8. John Churchill, Duke of Marlborough, the ultimate double agent. If you want to see political opportunism at its finest, remember the name John Churchill, the Duke of Marlborough. Churchill had a remarkable talent, not for loyalty, but for backing whichever side seemed likely to win. He initially served King James II. But when James appeared to be losing power, Churchill switched sides and joined William of Orange. The shock fact. He shared military secrets and strategic information with William. Then, after William gained power, Churchill secretly communicated with James as well. In other words, he was playing both sides at the same time. Few figures in history have mastered the art of political survival quite like him. 9. The Walker Spy Ring, the Navy officer who sold his country's secrets. Imagine a trusted military officer secretly working for the enemy. That's exactly what happened during the Cold War. John Anthony Walker was a U.S. Navy Chief Warrant Officer who made one of the most damaging espionage decisions in American history. The twist. In 1967, Walker walked into the Soviet embassy and began selling highly classified U.S. Navy communications codes. He didn't stop there. He recruited his brother, his son, and a close friend into the spy ring. The shock fact. For nearly 18 years, Walker supplied secrets to the Soviet Union. His actions gave Soviet intelligence invaluable information about American naval operations and submarine communications. When he was finally exposed, officials were stunned by the scale of the damage. 10. Mir Jafar, the betrayal that changed India's future. And finally, we come to a betrayal that many Indians know all too well. If there is one name synonymous with treachery in Indian history, it is Mir Jafar. He served as commander-in-chief under Nawab Siraj-ud-Dowlah of Bengal. The Nawab trusted him completely. Then came the Battle of Plassey in 1757. On one side stood the Nawab's massive army. On the other stood the forces of the British East India Company, led by Robert Clive. Victory should have been easy, but Clive offered Mir Jafar a tempting deal. "Help us defeat the Nawab, and you will become the next ruler of Bengal." The shock fact. During the battle, Mir Jafar and much of his army remained inactive instead of fighting. The Nawab was defeated and later killed. The British gained a decisive foothold in India, dramatically expanding their influence over the subcontinent. To this day, the name Mir Jafar is often used as a synonym for betrayal. Conclusion. So friends, these stories remind us of one harsh truth. Enemies rarely betray you. Betrayal usually comes from people you trust. Out of these 10 betrayals, which one do you think was the worst? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to share this video with that one friend you trust the most. Maybe they'll get the hint. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.